Well, it's season 3, and Merle got a great deal renting a seaside mansion named Dragon House. I wonder why it was such a good deal.
My name is Delanier Shook, and I am the information collector. And yes, I'm back in the garden on Dragon Island. It's a bit cloudy, and I think it's going to rain. There's a Bavarian guy who runs a German restaurant in the volcano over to the left, and every time he starts up a certain kind of stew, it starts to rain. Good stew, though. Anyway, the reason that I'm still here is we are working on a short film movie trailer for next week. Next week is Friday the 13th, and traditionally a horror movie comes out on Friday the 13th, and while I'm not a fan of all horror movies, I'm a deep respecter of creativity and tradition, so by the grace of God, I will bring you a trailer for a horror movie next week. Now, last week, I spent a lot of time covering updates from the British defense community, especially concerning their efforts in the Far East to push back against China. There were several developments in the British defense community I had to cover, and I'm just narrowing it to Africa. They're really beefing up their defense spending and efforts. So last Wednesday, the British Defense Secretary issued a press release pointing at Anglo-French cooperation in a mission in Mali. Now, the prior week, Royal Air Force Chinook helicopters helped French troops recover a downed French Mirage 2000 fighter jet. The British helicopters were already in Mali, providing heavy lift capability to the counterterrorism mission. Responding to the crash, they lifted both a few squads of French troops along with investigators and explosive ordnance teams to the crash site. The French provided Tiger attack helicopters to escort the force to the site. Last Tuesday, Commonwealth and Development Office of the UK announced around $200 million of economic investment into Kenyan economic projects. The Kenyan President Kenyatta was visiting London, and as part of the visit, the UK Foreign Secretary announced about $80 million for 10,000 green homes in Kenya. Now, this is part of an initiative of Kenya to have 1 million green homes by 2022. Like I said, Kenya is a nation to watch. It always has been. It's a very impressive country. Now, some of this money, that they're not the housing money, but the money they're investing, will be put toward the Nairobi International Financial Hub. it's a very stable economy, very stable nation, and I don't think it gets as much press as it should. They will also be funding Kenyan green manufacturing, in particular the Kapeto wind farm. Now, last Saturday, Boris Johnson greeted President Kenyatta at Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence. Oh, and by the way, this is spelled Chequers, not Checkers, like, you know, the little dog Richard Nixon refused to give back in his Chequers speech. No, I did not just date myself. Yes. They can Google it. Richard Nixon's Chequers speech. He said he was clean and didn't accept bribes, only somebody had given him a little puppy dog and he wasn't going to give the puppy dog back. The puppy dog was named Checker. Happy now? Anyway, during the meeting, the Prime Minister offered Kenya 817,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. A £3.3 million investment was announced from Infraco Africa to expand an off-grid solar energy grid in western Kenya. And the same day, the two countries' defense secretaries inked a 5-year military cooperation agreement, which comes as the UK steps up its defense footing in the region, especially against the fight against Al-Shabaab. Discussions between the secretaries included exchange of military personnel and the security of the nearly 250,000 British tourists who visit the nation annually. There's deep ties to Kenya and the UK. In fact, in the British TV sitcom, As Time Goes By, Judi Dench and the male lead. As time goes by, there's this girl who knew this guy years ago, and they reconnect years later after they've retired and then getting married. He went to Kenya and ran a coffee plantation. So the British have deep ties to Kenya. Items they discussed also included the new Kenyan terrorism court and continued British training for the 1,100 Kenyan soldiers who deploy to Somalia every year. Now, every year, British and Kenyan armies engage in 5 joint exercises involving over 5,000 British soldiers. Now, yet another Saturday press release last Saturday delved further into the Defense Cooperation Agreement. It reflected the prior 5-year agreement and its accomplishments. The 1,100 Kenyan soldiers they help train every year both in Kenya and in the UK. And during the past 6 years or so, they trained over 2,000 individuals, not just in Kenya, from over 20 countries at a counter IED training center in Embakasi, Kenya, to help the African Union in their fight against terrorism. The British also helped build training infrastructure at the Kenyans' infantry training school. Not only has the British Army Training Unit Kenya honed the Army's edge, but contributed nearly $53 million to the local economy, partly by employing over 500 locals. The press release mentioned a firefighting facility that had been handed over to the Kenyan Navy. So, very significant. This is a country to watch. It is a powerhouse in East Africa. Last Tuesday, Sikorsky announced it had received a contract to provide logistics and support for the 16 Black Hawk helicopters of the Brazilian Air Force. The 4-year contract emphasizes sourcing support locally, including technical support and parts storage on site. Felipe Benvenu, The director of Sikorsky Sustainment Business Development said, quote, "We thank the Brazilian Air Force for selecting Sikorsky to provide the highest level of logistics support for its Black Hawk helicopter fleet. Local storage of spare parts will eliminate long lead times for material that would keep an aircraft on the ground. Close collaboration with Sikorsky engineers, whether virtual or in person, will also help the Air Force maintainers improve the readiness rates of these utility aircraft for important missions such as search and rescue." Last Friday, Honduran President Hernandez met the general director of Mexican airline Volaris in Mexico City. Along with other administration officials, they visited the airline's offices to develop possible direct flights in Honduras. The press release points out this follows the announcement the previous week that Spirit Airlines will start several flights to Honduras in November from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Houston.